Workers and labor organizations in 80 countries of the world are looking forward to their day tomorrow. May Day marks the celebration that highlights the struggle for the rights of the working class and promotes the 9 of the 5 slated work hours of the day, while many workers wait expectantly for the International Labour Day events every year to bring most of their issues to the fore. It is mandatory for union leaders to gather and rally in peaceful solidarity with workers the world over. This year is no exception. The atmosphere is expectant, and labor leaders have proposed their theme. What is labor doing to address workers' concerns, and how much cooperation is labor getting from government and workers themselves in their efforts to fulfill the hopes and aspirations of the average Nigerian worker? All these and more are issues for discussion tonight on Nigeria Today. I am Segun Ojelade. In the studio to discuss labor and its relevant issues is Yunusa Mohammed. He is the President General, Senior Staff Association of Statutory Corporations and Government-Owned Companies. I welcome you to the program, comrade.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers.
We also have in the studio Mrs. Ene Obi, Country Director, Action Aid, Nigeria. Madam, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers.
I think I'll start with you, comrade. May Day, Workers' Day, or International Labour Day. What is the significance of the day? We celebrate it in Nigeria on May 1. Has it not lose its savor, if I can say that?
The labor, as you all know, constitute the body of employees in Nigeria and all over the world. May Day is the opportunity to meet and assess what we have been able to do and what are the challenges that await us in the next few years. For us, being a public sector union, we are social partners to government, and we only assess, analyze what we have been achieved by analyzing government policies, or since the new administration came into being. You are aware that the present administration at inception took upon itself matter of security, fighting corruption, and then trying to fix the economy. So in analyzing tomorrow, our day, we are going to look at these 3 key issues and what government is doing about them.
Okay, let's just stay on the International Labour Day. Every year we celebrate it. My question is, does it still hold much significance to the worker? You know, has it not? Is it still relevant in today's world with what is happening around the world today?
The significance does not diminish as long as work takes place on the earth.
Okay.
May Day is not just a few hours celebration. It goes far deeper than that, because it provides a platform to assess the relationship we have with our social partners, our employers, and then to also understand the challenges in the society. We are not operating in a vacuum. The challenges in the society affects both the employer and the employee, and May Day provides the opportunity to meet and assess those challenges together. It's not exactly about we and them, it's partnership. So as long as there's work taking place on the earth, May Day continue to be something all workers in the world look up to.
Okay. Now, Madam, let's look at this, the significance or the centrality of the worker. You know, there are so many segments of society. But if we're talking about development, nation building, how central is a workforce in any economy?
In any economy, the workforce is the engine room for development. Because without workers performing their duties, you know, there won't be development or there won't be performance. There has to be adequate performance on the account of the worker. And so in the labor movement, like he spelled out this year in the theme of the labor movement and national development, we're looking at workers, you know, their contributions to national development. And when you are looking at that, you also need to look at what is the investment in terms of the government in the workforce. If you have an engine room, you need to be able to prepare the engine room or the oil to prepare the engine to work. What is the government's contribution to the engine room? I like the question that you posed. You said, is it still relevant? For many workers, it will be relevant. But for workers who have not collected their salaries for months, for almost 1 year, and then you're talking of May Day, yes, they will go out for May Day, but is it relevant? What is the relevance? Can we even imagine ourselves when workers are not collecting salaries? It's relevant because the trade unions bring out the Workers' Day every year to try to appreciate the workers, to look at the resilience of the Nigerian worker, to look at the activities of the Nigerian worker, to appreciate themselves, and also interact with the government. Because sometimes you want the government to be there, sometimes they don't, of course, last May Day, they were there was a high representation of the government, from the Senate to the House of Representatives to all. The president wasn't there at the time, I think that was when, but the vice president did not turn up. It's the time to show them appreciation of being there. And even if they're angry with you, with the kind of economy we're having now, they have the right to be angry. That does not mean, like Comrade said, is a social partner, okay. But you don't have to defend. If they are angry, they have the right, you can explain to them. Governance is about demand and supply. Okay. Some people have to demand and others supply.
Now, yeah. let's look at the Nigerian worker of today. The Nigerian worker of today. Now, what will you say about the quality of the workforce and the state of mind of the worker?
Well, I think this is a very good one. As I sit here, we are told by government that the economy is out of recession. We are told by government that our foreign savings has increased. But the Nigerian worker today is in deep poverty. The one that in itself is a demotivation. We are contending with a lot of issues. Our take-home pay cannot take anybody anywhere. And when there is no relationship between your input and what you are paid as earning, there is a lot of problem there. In some states, even some people have not been paid for months. So the relationship is supposed to be a social partnership, but it's now going to master and slave relationship, which is not good for the economy.
Okay. Now, let's look at what we can do, what must be done to assist. What must be done? Yeah. Quick wins now to improve. To keep the Nigerian worker more active and productive quickly.
I think at the lecture this morning, the president had talked about, where Labour is proposing a new minimum wage. Even when you look at that minimum wage, you still know that the minimum wage, you take it to the market, it will hardly buy you some things, but at least there is an improvement. as long as there is no more devaluation or more inflation, you know, the quick wins is for government to pay attention. I think there is enough money in Nigeria. There is a lot, you know, if you find out, even the other minimum wage, which is the 18,000, many governments are unable to pay. And that's why they are owing for 1 year. But if you look at the money, that the Paris Club, the money that has been returned, so many funds that have been flowing in, counting to trillions of naira, have been taken to the states. They've gone to the states. What is happening at the state level? Why is it that you cannot pay the money that is coming? We need accountability. We need transparency and accountability of the governance, of the government, and then the local level. We also need democratic, you know, democracy at the local government level, and fiscal, you know, in terms of taking the money down to with the closest of governance to the people.
Now, your final word before we take our break on the program. Now, what are those things that you will quickly want the government or even the labor, or the workers themselves to do? Because these days, people talk about empowering yourself, going into other things, not relying heavily solely on government. Quickly, because of our time.
Yes, what we want to say about this is the one major idea we want to give to government is you must reduce the cost of governance. So that you have money to do what you need to do to the Nigerian worker. And then the second thing is the government is fighting against corruption. Our own view about the fight is we support government in its drive to reduce or even eradicate corruption. But you cannot eradicate corruption without attending to the needs of your citizens.
Thank you very much. Now, we are taking a rather long break. This is why we call it a date on this discussion. Remember that Mr. President just had a meeting with the President of the United States. On the second leg of this program, we have another guest that will be coming in for us to look at that historic meeting. Now we'll take a short break now. We'll be right back. But on behalf of everybody in the studio, I must thank you, the President of the National Association of President General, Senior Staff Association of Statutory Corporations and Government-Owned Companies, Comrade Yunusa Muhammad, for all that you said on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then, Madam, I also thank you, Mrs. NLB, Country Director, Action Aid, Nigeria, for your comment on the program. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
Now we take a break. Our second leg of the discussion will continue after. Thank you.
As a worker in Nigeria, I'm almost 25 years in the service, and this time around I want Labour to put pressure on the government so that they can increase the welfare package for the workers. It's very necessary, because when you look at the economy situation of Nigeria, it's not measuring with the salaries and the wages the workers are taking.
Importantly, the welfare of the staff has to be looked into. The economic is really biting hard on the workers, and so the workers are agitating for more of their take-home. So the government should look into that.
They promise workers for minimum wages. They should increase the minimum wage, because things are not beyond expectation now. A poor man cannot even feed. And secondly, the workers are not enjoying the work anymore.
With regard to the negotiation that is going on between Labour and the government, actually it is very, very important, I think, for government to have a look. Most especially if you look at the salary scale that we are still using in Nigeria, it has dated back to so many years. And when you look at the cost of living in Nigeria, actually, it's nothing to write home about.
Coming up on NTA News 24, Nigeria Today, 7:30, Monday to Friday. with exciting anchors on topical issues. Inspirators, a search for those who inspire others. Business 24, a business magazine program. Late edition repackaged. Fresh and exciting programming on NTA News 24. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Nigeria Today. Now, as we said before we went on that short break, Mr. President, President Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Muhammadu Buhari, met with the U.S. President some few minutes ago in Washington, and there are some landmark decisions that came out of that very short interactions. I'm being joined in the studio now by Professor Chudi Wazirike, political analyst, to take a look at some of the major takeaways from that meeting. Prof, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Now, let's look at Nigeria, US, the two presidents meeting. On the overall, what are your initial comments?
Well, I have not quite watched the full thing because I was on my way here when it was happening. But very clearly, anytime the US president and an African president of President Buhari's stature meet, it's really a very important summit. I was very impressed that President Buhari is the first African head of state to actually have this kind of official visit to the to Washington, and given the significance of this country in the West African sub-region and across Africa, it is fitting. This is part of the quarrel many of us had with Obama. Obama had a certain degree of disdain for Nigeria. It was very much focused on democracy and human rights, which is fine, you know, but there are other issues. So this attention is welcome. On the global stage, there are just very few nations that get to play larger-than-life roles. And Nigeria, in terms of population, wealth, the capacity of its citizens, the vision of its leadership, is primed to be at least a regional power on the global scale.
Now, the two leaders discussed issue of security, and the U.S. president restated the commitment of the American government to assisting Nigeria to defeat terrorism. In fact, they commended the efforts of the Nigerian government so far. How do you see that coming from U.S. to Nigeria?
Well, I think Nigeria needs all the encouragement, commendation, and actual assistance that they can get. You know, there are several new generations of weaponry, some of which are very flexible and clearly can help identify the insurgents and terrorists and so on. And these were blocked in the past. So if he's now saying that along with the Tucano aircraft and the whole range of other things, that America is now going into concrete security arrangements with Nigeria, that is very good. But you know, some of these undertakings have to actually pan out. They have to actually happen. Oftentimes, for diplomatic reasons, all kinds of agreements are reached upon, but they're not domesticated and they're not followed through. But I know clearly that this particular visit was going to center on security, economy, and agro-industry and so on. Security being number one. There's no question that if what is happening in the Lake Chad region is not brought under control, it will destabilize the 6 countries that are involved, from Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and so on, including Nigeria and other countries far afield. So we do have a problem in the Northeast, and security is, ought to be our main concern. And you know, while on that, you know, there's a whole issue of the Nigerian public being prepared. The Nigerian public has not really been prepared yet for some of these difficulties.
Now, the issue of trade, like you mentioned, equally came up with President Trump talking about having access in Nigeria to agricultural goods from the US. When we talk of trade between Nigeria and superpowers like America, people talk about what are we putting on the table. How do you see Nigeria trading with the US? Do we have any comparative advantage?
That's a very good question. You know, beyond oil and human capacity issues in terms of the intellectual and professional ability of our citizens who are making their mark in America, there's no question that the area of other threats, that area has not been as explored as the other ones, let's put it that way. So I think that the emphasis on agro-industry and all kinds of partnerships with some of the big agro-industry firms there is a step in the right direction. There are things that can be done, you know, from cotton, which can be revived, to sorghum, which they need, to a whole range of other things that we're not even planting or dealing with right now. These things could be developed. The issue is just to look. So I, for one, welcome it. I know that the Black Trade Business Group is very active. They're also on the horizon. The U.S. Africa Chamber of Commerce is what is to be done is just really huge. You know, rice imports, all kinds of other things. But this is need to be discussed. I would say that the issue was, apart from the emphasis on AGOA, which was wonderful for those countries that chose to be part of it in terms of primary products and so on. Nigeria is really at the early stages of becoming a light manufacturing country. Apart from AGOA, not much attention has really been paid to any other product other than strategic minerals and oil in Africa. That can change if Trump actually means business.
The two leaders also, I mean, it was raised about, just like you said, oil. Purchase of Nigerian oil with US now more focused on shale oil. Do you think we can bring anything from this meeting to Nigeria getting a deal from US or other countries about oil, purchase of oil?
I would say that overall it will be a positive meeting. But remember that President Donald Trump is an economic nationalist. He's on the America first. Let's just not really hope for more than he can deliver. He wants to sell things to us, and of course we also want to sell to him, as it were. Oil will always be a centerpiece of Nigerian economy for the foreseeable future. You know, and I think that what the informal boycott of Nigerian oil by the American interests in the past few years has gone to show is that we must diversify. There are other countries that need the same oil, and that is what we began to do. China, even India, and so on and so forth. A dollar is a dollar, whether it comes from Washington or from Beijing. What is important is really the cultural as well as other ties that we have with America. America has played a major role in Nigerian affairs since 1884, one way or the other, and more since independence. Nigerians feel very warm towards America. The average American will have a hard time finding where Nigeria is, but we're beginning to make our mark in many areas, as it were. But going back to the issue of trade, you know, the shale oil is a very, you know, it really hasn't taken off as much as they thought. You know, so, but they also have strategic oil reserves, so they're not really hot in per se, and then their consumption is way down. But I think that they still import oil, so why not Nigerian oil? Why only Saudi Arabian oil?
Yes, President Trump was asked whether he would like to visit Nigeria, and then he said Nigeria is a beautiful country. That he would like to come to Nigeria, that we have beautiful people, beautiful country, government doing well. That's a big one.
That's high praise coming from him.
Yes.
You know, before he became president, and I used to be in New York, and it wasn't very far away.
He was reminded of such comments, and even our president addressed it.
Yes. Well, he denied it, and we must take him for his word. You know, he's an American nationalist, and you know, with you know, the Republicans and Democrats tend to have different emphasis. Yes. Republicans tend to emphasize security, trade, and so on as a way for international growth, whereas Democrats like Obama, the Kennedys, and so tend to emphasize good governance and human rights. The point is that in Africa we need all.
Yes.
We need to talk about democracy, we need to talk about human rights, we need to talk about good governance.
Yes, President Trump equally praised the Nigerian president that he has some respect, a lot of respect for him.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's really wonderful. No, I think overall it will probably be one of the finest moments for President Buhari. You know, this clearly is a success story. I don't think there were any major gaps, no controversial statements, and so on.
Yes.
The Americans received him very respectfully, yes, as an elder statesman from a very important African country, yes, and that's what we're asking for.
Yes.
Okay.
On the whole, how will you assess the meeting? It was brief, it was sharp, straight to the point.
Well, you know, they had a working lunch. You know, what the public will now see is the press conference, which is like the third. Normally, he'll be received in the inner sanctum, which is in the Oval Office, which is not accorded to everybody. It's for strategic partners and so on.
Yes.
There'll be a working lunch, and there'll be the press conference where everybody speaks their, yes, mind and so
yes,
on. So he was given the full works.
Yes.
And
in fact, yeah, President Trump came out of the White House to receive him.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I think that is very good.
Yes,
that is very good.
I must thank you, Professor Chudi Wazirike, political analyst, former member of the House of Reps, for all that you said on this program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is where we call it a day on the program Nigeria Today. For today, we shall be back tomorrow. On behalf of all of us, I am Shegun Ojelade. Bye-bye.